Hello silver friends, this is Joli from QuickSilverHair. Let's be honest, you clicked on this video because your curls are driving you absolutely crazy. Maybe you used to have gorgeous spirals that would last for days and days, and now they fall flat before lunchtime. Or maybe you're dealing with silver wavy hair that just doesn't want to cooperate like it used to. I get it. This is a problem that I have struggled with also. Since I ditched the dye 10 years ago, things have changed and I've learned quite a bit along the way. If you could see my hair every single day, you would realize that my hair is not perfect and I struggle with issues of frizz and curl longevity just like you do. But here's the thing, before you throw in the towel and give up on your curly hair, I've got a few tips for you that might help you get the most out of your curls and make them last just a little bit longer. By the end of this video, you will have learned 10 tips, and I hope the last tip helps you the most. So let's get started. Number 1 is ditching the dye. As counterintuitive as it may sound, ditching the dye can actually contribute to changes in the curl pattern. Dye damages all hair, and some hair types actually like the damage. My hair was that way. When I dyed my hair, the few days and weeks after I had dyed my hair, my curls were at their best. And I think it was that the cuticle was slightly damaged to accept the dye, and that created just a little bit more bounce and curl reactivity. For other people, they may notice that when they ditch the dye, they got curlier hair because their hair was too damaged and it couldn't hold the curl because of all of that damage. For many of us, like myself, it got less curly. I ended up with a double whammy, which brings me to point number 2. Number 2 is hormonal changes. Hormones control the shape of the follicle. The follicle controls the curl pattern. So the shape of the hair follicle can be influenced by testosterone, DHT, estrogen, thyroid hormones, insulin, etc. And as estrogen levels drop during menopause, testosterone binds to the receptors in the follicle, causing it to become straighter or even wavier over time. It really depends on your structure of your follicle and what's going on for you. The solution overall is to check with your doctor and see if you have some hormone imbalances that can actually be addressed. Your sex hormones are one thing, but remember I mentioned thyroid and insulin. You want to get a full workup and see if there's something that might help your curls return to their original pattern. Like I mentioned earlier in number 1, I had a double whammy. I ditched the dye at the very same time that I had a complete hysterectomy. So I've been on hormones for the last 10 years, and it's been really difficult to tell for sure if it was hormonal changes or just ditching the dye or a combination of the two. One way to tell if it is mostly hormonal driven is your prepubescent hair. If you could find some pictures of yourself before you went through puberty, the theory holds that whatever your hair looked like before you went through puberty, it's likely it will look the same after you finish menopause because the hormone levels will be somewhat similar. If you can find that photo, you might find a clue as to what's going on with your hair today. Number 3 is length and/or cut. This may seem like it's obvious. However, when you have long hair like I do, it's really easy for it to get too long and you just don't realize that that is what is pulling out the curl and that the weight of your hair is actually contributing to it elongating and not having as good of a recoil. Having long hair myself, I can tell you it happens. I will go for a little while and then all of a sudden I'm like, what is going on with my hair? Why is it fussing so much? And I realize that my hair has just gotten too long. In that same vein, if you need a haircut, you may need some shaping done that is done with a little bit of layers, because if you have an outer layer of hair that is weighing the underlayer down, it may actually be dragging the curl pattern out. So get a haircut and try some long layers or a curl by curl cut. I have a video on my channel where I go through my hair and cut it curl by curl. If you want to check that out, I will link it in the description box below. But a haircut can change everything. And if you have the right stylist, I highly recommend that you evaluate what's going on with the lengths of your hair and if it's possible that that weight of the curl is being pulled out by itself. Number 4 is over conditioning your hair. I'm talking about conditioning your hair to the point where it is too soft. All curly hair is dry. Nope, That's a myth. All silver hair is dry. Nope, that's also a myth. And because of these two myths, I think that a lot of people are using way too much conditioner or the wrong kind of conditioner for their hair. It really does depend on your hair type, and it really doesn't matter what color your hair is, and it doesn't matter what pattern your hair is. It depends on the porosity of your hair. It depends on how thick your hair is, how thin your hair is, how fine your hair is, how coarse your hair is. And I think that conditioners can contribute to this being a huge problem because we tend to think I need more conditioner, or I need the strongest conditioner, or I need the most moisturizing conditioner. And that may not be true for all hair types. Another issue that comes to play is water softeners. Water softeners use agents in them called conditioning agents to soften the water. And those conditioning agents will be conditioning your hair. So if you have a water softener, you may be softening your hair just with your water. Another issue is if you live in a humid climate. I live in a very dry climate, so I do have to make sure I have conditioner in my hair. But if you live in a humid climate and you're adding too much conditioner or the wrong type of conditioner to your hair, it could just be weighing your hair down because there's already so much moisture in the air. The solution to this problem is not don't use conditioner, it's find the right conditioner for you. You may need something that's lightweight with no oils, maybe a little bit of protein, or more water when you're using conditioner. So for instance, if you have a favorite conditioner, water it down a little bit. Don't use so much of it. And make sure that your leave-in isn't contributing to this problem as well. Again, I don't think you should stop using conditioner, but I do think you want to look at what your conditioner is actually doing and experiment with different ones to see if you need something a little bit lighter weight. That brings me to number 5, which is the overuse of silicones and oils. They're not necessarily evil or bad or that you should avoid them altogether, but you want to make sure that you're using them in moderation. Because of the fact that a lot of curly specific products contain oils, this is where I've included it with silicones because they do the same thing. They coat the hair, they create a beautiful barrier against humidity, so that's a valuable thing. They also can provide heat protection. But overuse and having them in every single product in your lineup can lead to buildup that weighs your hair down and causes you to lose that curl pattern that you're so desperately looking for. Heavy butters like coconut oil, shea butter, and cocoa butter are really big culprits here because they are coating and they're heavy. They are molecularly heavy. So they're going to weigh that hair down and pull your curl down and pull it out and make it flat. My best advice for using silicones and oils is to use them as a finishing product. So my entire lineup contains very few oils and none of my shampoo, conditioner, leave-in, or gel contains silicones. But occasionally when I'm finishing my hair, when I'm scrunching out the crunch, I like to seal all of this work that I've done in and make sure that it is protected from the humidity and environmental pollutions and wind and so forth. So using it as a finishing product is really great. And that way you can actually protect the curl that you've created. What you want to look for are water-soluble and shampoo-soluble silicones. And you don't want to use silicones at all if you are co-washing your hair and not using shampoo at all. You might want to avoid oils and silicones at all costs for a little while just to see how your curls respond. If you want to know more about water-soluble and shampoo-soluble silicones, I will link in the description box below a post on ingredients and what to look for. This all leads to number 6, not clarifying your hair enough. One of the things that I like to do is do a little test. If you have frizz and you have a lack of curl pattern, clarify your hair. If it gets frizzier, you need a better conditioner and a better hold product. If you clarify your hair and it gets better and you get a better curl pattern and your frizz goes away, you have a buildup issue and you have too much buildup on your hair. Either way, adding clarifying to your routine will be most beneficial. The clarifying shampoo that you need will depend on why you need a clarifying shampoo. If you have hard water, you need a clarifying shampoo that has chelating ingredients that break up the hard water deposits on your hair. And I can tell you, because I have hard water, when I use a chelating shampoo, my curls look so much better. And you might need something with sulfates. Or you might need a product with sodium C1416 olefin sulfonate, which is beautiful at breaking up all of the buildup from oils and butters. Number 7 is using the wrong hold products. Listen to me, for those of you in the way back that haven't got the message, no hold means no hold. If you aren't setting that curl with some sort of product that can lock it into place, it's not going to last. It's not going to stay. It will not be protected from the environment. Light to medium hold products are not enough. They will not work for finer, looser hair patterns. And using mousse today, not so much. I know many of us grew up in the 80s and the 90s with the wet look, and we were using that fabulous Aussie mousse that locked it in and gave us that solid curl for days. That mousse is no longer on the market, and I have not really ever found one that competed with it. And I think that most mousse today is really designed for volume, so it is not something to be used alone for hold. Using only a curl cream can also be a problem. Curl creams are not designed for hold. They're designed to encourage the curl. And in some cases, they can be very weighty and pull the curl out. So they might actually be counterproductive. And you can't use them by themselves. You may need a curl cream and then a gel product over the top of it. The solution is to use hard hold or firm hold gels, and you can layer them over your creams or your leave-ins to help soften your hair. And if you're applying them on really wet hair, you won't get that hard, crunchy hair that you think you will. And even if you do get that hard, crunchy hair, you have set what is called the gel cast. And that's a beautiful thing because it has set and formed the curl into place. These gels create a protective barrier and they add structure to the curl. If you need to, you can add grit to your hair by, in the midway process of diffusing your hair, adding a texturizing spray or a salt spray. This can help encourage a little bit of grit and curl will kind of grab onto it. I don't prefer the way my hair feels with that. I don't like that gritty feel in my hair. I like my hair to feel soft, but it is one solution that can help with encouraging the curl to stay. Don't be scared of the crunch. You can scrunch it out with your finishing oil or serum and your hair will be soft and it won't be crunchy. My recommended products for gel are Giovanni LA Hold, Loma Firm Hold Gel, that's my personal favorite. And if you live in a high humidity climate, I would absolutely suggest trying the Weedad Advanced Climate Control Heat and Humidity Strong Hold Gel. Number 8 is your application technique. Applying your products to damp hair will disrupt your curl pattern. So many of us, going back to the mousse, we were putting that mousse on our damp hair. But there's a wet hair rule here. Applying your products to wet or soaking wet hair will help evenly distribute the products. It helps to make sure that you are locking in that curl family. When you are styling your hair when it's wet and you see that seaweedy, clumpy look, you're on the right track. If you're trying to apply your leave-ins and your gels or your mousses on your damp hair, you can't get that look. You can't get those clumps together. If you're going for pure volume, damp hair might be the way to go. But if you're looking for longevity, I would suggest trying to apply your products on wet hair. I have a video called the Double Gel Double Plop Method. You can check that out. I will link it in the description box below so you can kind of see how I apply products for that best hold. Another rule is the touch factor. The more you touch your hair before it's 100% dry, the more likely you're going to cause frizz and break up your curl families. That's why when you're styling your hair on damp hair, you're already disrupting those families. You're already breaking up those clumps and you're already setting yourself up for less longevity. Trust me, this might be the game changer for you. Another thing to consider while you're applying your products is sectioning your hair. The more hair you have, the more sections you need. I have fine, thin hair, so I only section my hair into 3 sections. I do the 2 sides and the back section. And I focus on the back section a little differently because that curl is slightly different than the rest of my hair. And if I don't make sure that it has an adequate amount of conditioner and leave-in, The hair at the back of my neck is a completely different curl pattern, and it frizzes up and it looks absolutely different and pretty bad underneath the rest of my curls. So when you're sectioning, make sure that each section gets what it needs for its own sake. Number 9 is your drying technique. The longer your hair is wet, the more elongated your curl will be. If you're using a microfiber towel and you have low porosity hair, you're probably not getting enough water out of your hair. So I suggest that microfiber towels be used on higher porosity or quick drying hair types. If you have a slow drying hair type or a lower porosity hair like I do, I recommend cotton tea towels. And plopping. If you haven't learned how to plop your hair, you should, because it will help also to encourage the curls, because you are basically putting that wet, seaweedy curl family up against your head in a towel and protecting that family while some of the water is being soaked out. There are cons to air drying your hair. If you keep your hair wet for a long period of time, that water is going to pull the curl out. This was one of my number one culprits and one of my number one issues. I had air dried my hair for 20 years because of Curly Girl method. I would not touch my hair with heat. And that became a detriment to my curly silver hair, because the longer it stayed wet, which it took my hair upwards of 4 hours to air dry, but the longer it stayed wet, the longer my hair got, the more elongated the curl got, and the less curl clump I had. I even noticed this when I'm diffusing. If I don't diffuse it fast enough, it will start to weigh itself down and the curl will come out. I actually plop my hair onto the counter. I flip my head over and I plop my hair. I take it straight out of the plop and I put it straight back into the towel on the counter, and then I lay the dryer on the counter and I go around my hair in sections drying it, and I hover diffuse. Okay, so that's another part of not touching your hair. If you're touching your hair with the diffuser, you're breaking up those curl families, you're breaking up that curl clump, and you're creating more frizz. So you want to diffuse your hair without touching it. And I do this, like I said, by putting my dryer on the counter and I just move it around in a circle. Let your hair cool and let it completely dry 100% of the way before you do your finishing product, like scrunching out the crunch with an oil, or before you've touched your hair. I try so hard not to touch my hair until it is 100% dry. And that gets me this look for at least 2 days if I'm lucky. Which brings me to my 10th tip, which is your great expectations. You may have had some of these issues that I've discussed. You may have had all of these issues that I've discussed. And you may find that none of my solutions offer you any shift or change in your curl pattern. And what that means now is that it might be time for you to accept that your curls have changed and things are different now, and that you have to approach this differently, you have to accept it, and you have to look at your hair a different way. It doesn't mean that it's bad, it doesn't mean that it's ugly, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. It just means that it's different. And accepting what we have is so much better than chasing the perfect curl cream or gel or the perfect application method, because acceptance is free. Chasing curl products can get very expensive and only add to your frustration. You may have to adjust your curl scope like I did. I can get my hair to look like this for 24 hours, and then the next day it might look completely different. And if I'm lucky, I'll still have enough curl to put it in a cute curly ponytail. But I adjusted my curl scope. I work with what I have, and I think you should too. You may have, like I said, one of these issues or all of these issues. But if you choose to experiment, you can adjust for one thing or two things or three things or all the things and see what happens. I do suggest you try one thing at a time so you can actually see how that one thing performs for you. Take notes. Get yourself a curl journal and see if it helps you to figure out what it is that's causing your hair to lose its curl quicker than it should. And again, maybe it's none of these things and you have to accept what you're working with. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope these tips will get you to a better curl that lasts a little bit longer. As always, I have linked everything in the description box below, so all you have to do is click on the word more and open that up, and you will also see that there is an Amazon shop with all of the products that I've mentioned in this video today. While you're down there, join me on my newsletter because that is the best way for me to stay in touch with you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comments section below, because that is one of my favorite things about doing videos, is chatting with you and learning more about your hair and what you have done to succeed with your curls, or to answer your questions if you're struggling. And while you're down there, if you found this video helpful, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so now, because I would love to see you next time. Until then, shine on.